Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode 253 of Spy Curious. My name is Casey Pine, and I am joined today by the ever knowledgeable and amazing Pat Flynn. Welcome, Pat.
Good afternoon, Casey. Good afternoon, everybody.
Who have we got here? We've got Chris and Chantel. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you who are just in Investigations Uni, I hope you enjoyed Pat's presentation. And I actually have a couple of questions here for you, Pat. Actually, did you just want to give us a little brief summary about telephone interviews and what you kind of mentioned on Investigations Uni for those who didn't see it?
Yeah, look, telephone interviewing, that's a fairly significant part of what you do as an investigator. And it doesn't matter whether you're a government investigator or a private investigator. You do a lot of inquiries over the phone. Now, there's advantages and disadvantages to it. There's advantages in the fact that you can have all your information laid out in front of you. You can have documents, you can have photographs, you can have everything you like that you've got in front of you, and you can methodically go through the interview with the person and do that. Telephone interviewing is exactly the same as any other type of interviewing, where you need to plan what you're going to ask, list down the topics of the conversations that you're going to have throughout that interview. It's probably the biggest thing that once people get a little bit experienced, they don't tend to plan as much. They think, I've done 100 of these, so I'll be able to just wing it. But you shouldn't. You should still plan. So that's an advantage. The other advantage is if you're dealing with someone such as, well, for me, for example, as a male who's over 6 foot tall, you're not intimidating the person who's being interviewed. So if you're interviewing a female who's smaller than you or a male who's smaller than you, you've got no intimidation there. So it removes that. It's a very, very valid way of doing interviews. The disadvantages are sometimes people will have people in the background or on the sides while you're doing the interview, and they're actually driving them. They might be on a speakerphone, so the person that is with them is, guiding them with what answers they should be given. So there's benefits and there's disadvantages. But telephone interviewing, the big issue, plan it, and the other issue is make notes. And I'm going to go into some other issues in regards to notes in a little while. So yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you. I just have a couple of questions here that were asked during Investigations Uni. So we've got one from Jacob that says, how does it work with the interviewee signing the statement with phone interviewing?
Good question. Yeah, look, this day and age, a lot of private investigators now do live feeds via Zoom or Skype or stream like we're doing now. And there's no real necessity to do a signature on a document. Now, doing a phone interview, yes, you can have issues in regards to that. When you interview someone and you take up their time and then you prepare a document that you're going to get them to sign, sometimes you'll find a bit of reluctance in the person signing it. It's like going and doing a person face-to-face interview and not typing it there and then on your laptop. If you take notes or agree to have a voice recorder and you take all the information away, type up a Word document, which is the statement, sometimes it's very difficult to get them to sign it because they say, look, I've already given you 2 hours of my time or an hour and a half of my time. No, I'm not going to do it. Signed documents are critical in the private sector because the matters don't go to court. There's only a couple of % of matters that do go to court. So all of the settlement conferences, the mediations, the resolutions that they have at the end of a process with a civil investigation, it's all done based on the documents that are obtained by you as the investigator on behalf of the client, the insurance company or whatever. So a signed statement, that's really important. So getting a signed statement is probably, that's the holy grail. You've got to get that. An unsigned statement is fairly useless as far as private investigations go. It can be used as notes of a conversation that you've had, but it's still not the same as getting a signature. Now, as I said, most of the interviews now are done video links, so you don't need to have those signed. A company I worked for quite a few years ago now, we used to do general insurance interviews where we recorded them on a digital voice recorder, and those voice files were done on an Olympus voice recorder. The reason why we did those was because the file size was smaller than any other format that you had. They had an Olympus proprietary software program that actually had the recordings very small, and we used to email those to the client. They used to get emailed out to obviously someone who does the transcribing of them. Within 24 hours, if you did the interview today, by mid-morning tomorrow, you would have a Word document sent to you, which is the transcript of the conversation you had that you recorded that you sent to the client. And then we would go through it, listen to the recording, because you were there and you remember things. Sometimes the people doing the transcriptions can't understand the words, or the words don't mean anything to them. We did, when we submitted those voice files to the client, we used to go through and put any odd names, street names, surnames, or things like that that had a particular spelling on them, and we would attach that to the file when it went, so the transcription people could see what those particular words were on the list of the words that we sent. So you would go through the document, tidy it all up, fill in the places where they had indistinguishable or question marks or whatever they put on the transcribe. You would type them up, make them right, and then you'd take them back out to the client and the person you're interviewing, and get them signed on behalf of the client. Now, general insurance interviews and work cover interviews, they're insurance contracts, basically. So when you're doing general insurance matters, the person you're interviewing, if it's the insured, they have an obligation to cooperate when there's a claim made. So you don't normally have problems with those people when you go and do the interviews. It's always the independent witnesses and the first question they always ask is, will I be going to court? So, the matters don't go to court very, very rarely. And so the signatures for the insured interviews and things like that, that's not a problem because they've got an obligation. The independent witnesses, that just comes down to a bit of salesmanship and having a good personality to get on with the person that you're going to deal with as a witness.
Perfect. And each agency will have different policies around whether you obtain signatures even after streaming interviews and things like that. So, and you'll find like it's different from agency to agency, and they'll let you know exactly how to do it. So,
one of the other insurance companies that we used to deal with, they didn't require you to do a transcript of the conversation that you had during the interview. They used to, in their policy procedures or their guidelines, they used to have it set up so that when you did the interview, you do a summary, not a transcription, you do a summary of the key points of that interview, and you actually type those out as a chronology as you go through the interview, and that would be sent in. So no signatures are required on that. Again, it'll be for an insured person's interview, like the person who's insured. Independent witnesses, as I said, they're normally statements, and it comes down to good salesmanship, salesperson skills to get them to cooperate with you.
Yeah, that's what you said before actually leads perfectly into Brian's question, which was, can you use automated transcription software to record the interview verbatim? And what is the protocol for obtaining permission to record?
Okay, Queensland and Victoria, not a problem. You can actually record conversations, and you can record them, and you don't have to worry about asking for permission or disclosing the fact that you're doing it. All the other states, you've got express or implied consent that's required to do the interviews. So yes, you have to work that out. Look, it comes down to, again, being a good salesperson. If I sat down to interview someone and I wanted to record the interview for accuracy, I'd say that I want to record the interview in the interest of being accurate. It protects you, it protects me. I can't say things that weren't on the recording later if it's recorded. I'm just going to use it. The client's the only person that's going to use it. So you try and sell it to them like that. The other thing you say to them is, as soon as we finish this recording, I'll give you a copy of it. So you've got a copy of it, I've got a copy of it. It's totally accurate and it protects both of us. So that's the sort of sales pitch that I always used to use.
Perfect. And
oh, sorry, and getting back to transcription services here, I use drag and dictate, or I use drag and naturally speaking to write a lot of documents. I've been using it for many, many years, and I use it more so for doing reports where it's quicker to actually use drag and naturally speaking, dictate all the content of the reports, and then go back and correct it if there are any errors in it. Once you start using it, I've used it for many years, I know the words, or if I've got an upcoming word that I know it's going to struggle with, you talk up to that word, which it'll record on the document that you're actually creating. You stop talking, type the actual word in that you know that it's going to have trouble with, and then you just keep on talking after that. So I tried it once to do it as an interview in the field with a witness I was taking a statement from, and it was an absolute nightmare, because you've got to be turning the microphone on and off, and then if you forget to turn it off and you ask a person a question, it's got the question in there, and then you've got to go back and you've got to scrub that out. Yeah, it's more so for creating reports or creating a document later on. But yes, you can use it. It's a very useful tool.
Yeah, and there's so many now, different even AI tools that recognize your inflection and things like that for accuracy. But yeah, Pat's been using Dragon for as long as I can remember. I think you put me onto it.
Yeah, and the other thing too, the Google speech engine, the speech recognition engine that is on your computers with Chrome and all that stuff, that is really accurate. I can't remember the last time I ever typed a street name or a location in my Google Maps. Never did. I don't do it. I just hit the microphone, dictate it. I dictate my text messages. If I'm doing a text message, hit the microphone, dictate the text, bang, it's gone. Another useful tool that's really good as an investigator that I found a couple of years ago is a little program called Google Keep. It is really good. It's like a little note-taking type application that works with speech recognition. You can actually set up that it links into your Google Maps. You can even do on Keep where you can actually write down, I need to get a prescription from the chemist. So the next time I go to, the shopping centre, can you remind me to get my prescription? And as soon as you get to the, it's really good. There's a lot of, if you go on YouTube and have a look at the Google Keep videos that are on there, how people use them, it's absolutely fantastic. It's really good. So yeah.
Is it KEEP? Like
sorry?
Normal? Is it just the normal spelling for keep?
Yeah, Google Keep. K-E-E-P. Yeah, Google Keep. It's a little yellow icon that when you actually install it on your phone or your tablet or on your computer or whatever. Yeah, it's great. It's absolutely great. It's a really good note taker. Oh, look, it has the ability to use the Google speech recognition engine that they use, and it's really accurate, like really accurate.
Awesome. Okay. And final question. I think this one came from Jacob. I didn't write it down, but he is considering doing a body language course with Alan Pease. Have you heard of Alan Pease?
I've read all the books that Alan Pease has done. And, you know, as an investigator or an experienced investigator, you get to read body language. And I touch on this when we do our face-to-face class delivery type courses. I'll just run through a couple of quick things with using body language as a guide. Now, you've got to be really good. The Israelis go into like the words that are strung together and how they word them and the association of words in a sentence and all sorts of things like that, whether you look up to the right or look up to the left or down or whatever. They have a really complicated thing and they do a lot of practice in regards to it. What you want to do is use body language like you do for a lie detector, like a polygraph. How polygraphs work is you have a series of control questions which you know the person's going to answer correctly, and the little needle goes along like this and it doesn't do anything, and you ask questions as you control lead up. As soon as you touch on that controversial question that's going to get a reaction, the little needle goes bang, bang, bang. So that's how a polygraph works. Now, you want to do the same thing with body language. Now, there are three really common things that I look for. The first one, and it's absolute cracker, when you're sitting talking to someone doing an interview, and doing recorded interviews or video interviews is really good because you can watch the person, keep your eyes on them, rather than if you're looking up and down off your laptop when you're typing it. So the first one, you'll touch on that question and the person will shift in their seat. They'll go like that. That's the first one. The second one is the swallow, the dry mouth, and the lick the lips. That's another one. And the very last one, which is no matter how good an investigator is or how good the person is that you're interviewing, it's one thing that is quite common that you can't control. Now, if I was getting interviewed, like I've been interviewed by, you know, senior people in the police years ago for allegations that I'd done something wrong, and, you know, I know how to sit there and withhold all body language, and I'll sit and I'll make sure my feet are planted on the ground. I'll hold on to the armrest of the chair, or I'll clasp my fingers together and I won't move. But the one thing that you can't control, and if you're sitting close enough to the person, their pupils will dilate when they get asked a question that's not, you know, something they don't want you to talk about. And quite often they'll blink a couple of times. So you'll get a couple of rapid blinks. And if you're close enough to look at them, you'll see a little dilation of the pupil. But they're about the only things that you'll find common that you find by way of body language. So I know the, you know, body language and the crossed arms and everything like that, that's fairly straightforward. However, you want to look for reactions to questions. So if I was asking interview questions where it was just like your housekeeping, your name, address, and how long have you lived here and who do you live at the house with or whatever, blah, 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 and you'll get no reaction to any of those. And then the moment you touch on the thing that you're there to interview them about, if they move in their seat, you go, hang on, there's a reaction to that question. I quite often back off and go away from that question, and I'll ask some other questions, and then I'll come back and I'll retouch on that again. And quite often you'll find they'll do a reaction when you come back to that question. So all that tells you is that's something you need to explore further by asking more questions. That's your rabbit burrow. You've got to go down the rabbit burrow and you've got to ask all those questions. So the best case scenario is you get a cluster of things that they do. You'll find when you really touch on something that's controversial or something they know that is difficult for them to answer, you'll get them to shift in their seat, they'll swallow, they'll blink, and you go, bingo. This is real. I'm on exactly where I need to be. And that's when you just keep asking questions and asking questions. And I suppose it's not a very good analogy, but it's what I usually term painting them back into a corner where they can't get out. So you just got to keep asking those questions and drilling down on the questions. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it all very much comes with experience, doesn't it?
Oh, look, and I teach this in the classes we do too. You'll get a good feeling about something. Now, trust those instincts that you've got. So your old gut feeling that you get, or, you look at this person, you go, I think you're lying your backside off. So trust that instinct that you've got. And if you want to go further with that, take it, because your instincts are very, very accurate.
Yeah. And Joyce just mentioned Scott Taylor just above. And in your list that you receive for Investigations Uni, the email with the list of all the previous Investigations Uni, we have Scott Taylor there. So make sure you check out that Investigations Uni episode as well. And I think Mike has asked you to answer a couple of questions, Pat. We can jump into those now. And speaking of the devil, and he shall appear.
Here he is.
G'day, everyone. Just before you do, Pat, Alan Pease in his video, what he says in it is if you're going to lie to someone like your wife or the long-term relationship person, ring them up. Don't do it face-to-face because they can read your body language. Alan Pease has been preaching that, in my experience, since 1982 when I went to TAFE and they played his first video. It's a classic. So, yeah, you're spot on there, people. I'll stop into...
He's gone again.
Okay.
So those questions,
perfect. I had a couple of questions. Yeah, I had a couple of questions that came in from students. And the first one is in regards to contemporaneous notes. And if anyone's had anything to do with me by way of any assessments that we've done on our courses or, the programs we do, you'll hear me banging on about making notes. You have to make notes. It is something that, in all the times that I've ever been to court over all the years, the one thing that you'll get hammered on is your notes. And it's the thing that will cause the greatest discomfort to you in the witness box is how good your notes are. Now, this will sort of lead into the second question that I've got. So you've developed your habits. When you start doing investigations and you start gathering evidence and going and interviewing people and speaking on the phone and doing interviews on the phone and things like that, you've got to get in the habit of doing things to a best practice standard. You've got to do things so that you've got criminal matters that are beyond reasonable doubt. You've got civil matters that are are balanced probabilities. So if you do things that would satisfy a beyond reasonable doubt criminal matter, if it went to a criminal court, and you develop your habits in regards to that, such as your note taking and things like that, or your handling of items and evidence and things like that, if you handle them correctly, write notes all the time, who cares where it goes? So if you've got a workers' compensation matter and it's a civil matter, and halfway through it you find out that the person is attempting fraud or committing fraud by lodging the application to say that I had this injury at work when they actually had it on the weekend playing sport. So, that matter was a civil matter and it might lead to the point of a fraud. So if you get in the habit of doing things correctly or to a best practice standard, it doesn't really matter where it goes. So coming down to your notes, you've got to write notes. It's just something you'll develop habits of doing. I keep a notepad next to my, like on the side of my desk here when I'm at home, i.e. So I'll write notes. I'll write notes. I'll have notebooks depending on what I'm doing, but you've got to write notes. I know for a fact, every time you ring Mike up and talk to him, he will write notes about what that conversation was. And he usually commits things to email to back his notes up. And that's just a habit, a good practice habit that he developed. So contemporaneous notes, you need to write the notes contemporaneously, which means at the time or as soon as possible after. So it's associated with the issue that you're dealing with. And usually it will be something that I've seen or something that I've observed, and you write notes about that. Or if you've taken photographs, for example, you'll write notes about your photographs and why and how you took them. Or it'll be with a conversation, and it's more likely that the conversation you have with someone, that will be the key thing to make notes about. Now, getting back to Queensland and Victoria, you can record those notes, and you don't have to tell them. If you have a look at the legislation and have a look at the presentations that we do during our courses, you'll be able to figure out what you do and how you do it. Now, when you're recording someone, and even though it's legal to do it in Victoria and Queensland, some clients don't want you to do that. I know the Victorian Work Cover Authority, even though it's legal to record the conversations, they don't want you to do that. They don't want recorded conversations of people that you deal with. So you've got to balance it up with the legality of it, and also what your client's service level agreement and their code of practice is. So that's really important. So getting back to contemporaneous notes. Now, the question was, I've gone all around the circle, but I'm back there now. The question was, is the notes that are made on a case management system or file notes on your computer, is that sufficient to satisfy, or on a running sheet, for example, is that sufficient to satisfy contemporaneous notes? And the answer is no. You actually should write your case management system notes, your file notes, and your running sheet from your contemporaneous notes. Now, Victoria, the Victorian Work Cover Authority, they have the most comprehensive service level agreement and code of practice. And they, when you're working for them, they want you to write notes in a bound, numbered, paged notebook for all of the investigations that they deal with, or that you're dealing with on their behalf, including telephone conversations and face-to-face conversations and things like that. So the book that we usually refer people to is, if you go to Officeworks, there are two basic stationers that have notebooks that have numbered pages. The Collins minute book is the sort of the preferred document that's easy to get. There's another stationer that sells things both online on eBay and in Officeworks. It's called Luke Term. It's a German stationer. Luke Term, I think it's 1910, I think it is, but Luke Term notebooks, you go and have a look at those, open them up, and they've got numbered pages on them. Yeah, so they're sort of your two sort of standard books that you use. But yeah, as I said, Victorian Work Cover Authority, they want you to write their notes on their behalf in a bound, numbered page book. So that's how much emphasis they put on it. And realistically, those guidelines have come from people that, like myself, have come from a law enforcement background where that's just the way it was done. And it's a cover your backside when you go to court. And it's really nice when you do things the same way. And as I said, coming back to that developing habits, if you do things the same every day, and every time you deal with a phone call or a meeting with someone, if you make notes in the same way each time, it's really easy to answer the question in the witness box when you're asked, and be very credible about it, to say, yes, I wrote notes. How do you know that you wrote notes? The solicitor might say. And you say, well, it's my practice to always make notes, and I make notes all the time. And you can pull out your notebook and say, here's a notebook that's got a chronological record of all the days that I've had consecutively making notes. So that's really easy to do. You can look really good in the witness box just from the habit of doing things the same way. So that's it. So now, having said that,
Brian's just asked for some clarification. He said, what about notes during a recorded interview? Isn't recording contemporaneous, and the investigator can concentrate more on the statement as opposed to taking notes?
Yeah, spot on. That you're dead right. I was just going to say, having said taking notes, there's nothing wrong with recording, audio recording the actual interview or the exchange you have with someone, where you're allowed to legally. Now, under the Evidence Act, I can't remember what section it is, but under the Evidence Act, recordings, videos, and all those things are classed as documents under the Evidence Act. So a voice recording or a video that's been made by you, it's a document specified as a document under the Evidence Act, and all you have to do is treat it like you would any other document that you have. So if you've got a document that you want to lead as evidence in a court proceeding, you've got to lay the groundwork down of where the document cut from, who created it, why was it created, what equipment did you create it on, those sorts of things. So if you're doing it the same every day and it's your recorder that you've got, it's the same one, or you use the app on your phone. I've got 3 or 4 digital voice recorders that I've got here. I've got all sorts of stuff, video cameras and all that sort of stuff. I don't use them now. My phone does everything. And I'm not quite sure, I'm not an Apple person, but I'm quite sure Apple iPhones will be exactly the same as my Samsung phones. My Samsung phone has a voice recorder on it. It has 2 microphones, one at the top of the phone, one at the bottom of the phone. So I can put it in meeting mode, sit it on the table in front of me, and the microphone on the top of the phone, that's pointing towards the person you're interviewing, and the microphone on the bottom of the phone is pointing towards me, and you get very clear recordings of it. Again, you've used that equipment to make that recording. You need to make notes about how you made that recording. So it still doesn't alleviate the fact of making notes. You've still got to make notes to have the recording admitted as evidence. So similarly, if you make notes or you didn't make notes right at the time and then you race back out to your car and you wrote your notes up in the car because it was only a very short conversation or whatever, you have to specify that in your notes. So you've got to write notes about how you made your notes as well as making the notes, if that makes sense. So these are all the housekeeping things. And as I said, once you start doing things the same way every day, all the time, Groundhog Day, it's very easy to be accurate and to be credible in the witness box. So nothing wrong with making videos and audio. I sometimes use audio recordings to compile documents from. I remember I interviewed the CEO of Coca-Cola Amatil, and he was a very busy man. I had to get a very short statement off him in regards to a work cover matter. And I had to get a statement in regards to, I think it was their policy procedure or whatever it was that he signed off on. And I knew he was a busy man. And on the phone, when I rang him up, I said, I've got to come and get this statement. It's a procedural thing, but work cover on it. I said, I know you're a busy man. How would it be if I came up, I'll spend 5 minutes with you or 10 minutes with you. I'll ask you a few questions and I'll record the conversation. I'll go home, prepare the document, send it back to you via email. You can have a look at it. And if you're happy with it or you want adjustments made to it, we can do that over the phone quickly. And then I said, I'll come back and spend another 5 minutes with you while you sign. And he said, perfect. So that's how I did that. Another really good thing. Now, we're touching on an area here that is a little bit technical, but if you've got a phone that you've got on the desk in front of you on speakerphone and you make a you make a phone call and have a conversation with someone, there's nothing wrong with having another phone or a tablet sitting on the table next to it recording your telephone conversation. There's nothing wrong with it. Touching the equipment together or connecting the equipment together, that's not legal because it's the Telecommunications Act, which is a Commonwealth Act. So when you're going up to make your appointment, now this is just a little time saver trick that I do or used to do. If you ring up to make your appointment, g'day, introduce yourself, blah, blah, blah. This is what I've got to do. I've got to come and take an interview and take a statement from you. While I've got you there, can you quickly run me through what happened on that day or what happened, the subject of what you're going to take the statement of? And they'll go rattle, 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 and they'll tell you the little story about what they saw, what they did, or how they were involved with it. Now, before you go and see them to take a statement, you can half do your statement based on the stuff that they've told you on the phone. So you can compile your statement up, get your Word document open. You can populate it with their name and date of birth and address and everything because you got that on the instructions. You can rattle down, sort of basically what their arrangements are in regards to the workplace, what their job is, how long they've been there, things like that. So you rough out your statement, and the actual story that they're telling you, you can type all that in your statement in numbered paragraphs. And then when you go to interview them, that'll cut your interview time down because you've already prepared the document before you've got there. So that's another little tip.
That's a great tip.
So contemporaneous notes, basically they've got to be done there and then at the time or as soon as practicable after. If you're in a situation where you can't make notes, there's nothing wrong with doing a quick voice recording on your phone as your preliminary notes or prompts to refresh your memory with car numbers or whatever it is, distances or something. And then later on, you write your notes up when you've got time to do it. So again, you've got to keep that voice recording. You've got to keep the voice recordings of any conversations that you have, and you've got to keep your notes, your original notes. So yeah.
Be as organized as you possibly can.
My word.
Yeah. Awesome. That was brilliant. Well, you guys are getting a free masterclass on.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
now the next question I had was in regards to seizing property or seizing exhibits. And the question was asked in regards to, I can understand police with a warrant seizing items and property and things like that. Where would I ever do that as a private investigator? Now, surprisingly enough, it's not uncommon to seize things as a private investigator. A lot of general insurance matters, you end up seizing pieces of evidence and exhibits and things like that at the time you do interviews. So I'll give you an example. All the stolen car investigations that you'll ever do in regards to a general insurance claim, the client always wants you to take possession of the keys. They want those car keys because all of the car keys now that are for cars, more recent model cars, and funnily enough, the Mitsubishi Magna was the very first car that went to coding keys that connected to the computer in the car. So that's the reason why you cannot hotwire a car and you can't start a car now without the keys. The unfortunate aspect of that is that's why we have carjackings, home invasions, and people breaking into the house to pinch the car keys, and then they come back and steal the car later. So, yeah, you've got to have a key to start a car. Now, what a lot of people don't realise, unless you're doing general insurance investigations, all of those keys can be forensically analysed. You can have a look at the whole life of that car key from the moment you took possession of the car or the time you bought the car. It has a record stored in the computer of the car and in the key. You can actually get those looked at, and it'll tell you how many times the key's been used, when it was used last, and that's why they ask you to get the spare key and the original key if you've had a stolen car. But usually now, because you have to have a key to steal the car, you've only got the spare key. So that can be something that's of significance if the spare key hasn't been used for 8 months or 12 months, and then on the day that the car was stolen, the spare key's been used coincidentally on the day that the car was stolen. That's something that you would raise a red flag and go, hang on, I might need to ask a few more questions about this. Why did they use that key? So, yeah. So taking possession of car keys. Now, another example, we did the company I used to work for, we did a general insurance investigation for a man who had an Audi, and he made a claim in regards to the fact that the gearbox blew up. Excuse me. And the gearbox blew up and it was repaired by the dealer. We actually went, myself and one of the other investigators that worked in the company, we went and we took possession of that gearbox after it was taken out of the car, and we took it to a mechanical engineer who had a look at it and said, no, the gearbox didn't blow up, because if it blew up, it would have pushed debris downwards and broke the bottom case. Excuse me, I got a cough. It would have broken the bottom of the case of the gearbox and would have been forced outwards. However, when the mechanical engineer had a look at it, it was pushed inwards, and there were scratches on it consistent with how the car would have reacted to being run over a big rock. So the big rock actually broke the crankcase of the bottom of the gearbox and crushed it in. Sorry. So so you'll take possession of things doing general insurance matters. We take possession of documents all the time when you go to an investigation, whether it's work cover, general insurance, CTP, doesn't really matter. You take possession of documents. Technically, you're seizing the items, but I suppose you're still gathering evidence by collecting items of evidence or exhibits that are going to be relevant to the actual investigation that you're doing. So you're always taking possessions of things. You sometimes don't take possession of original documents. You always get copies of them or take photographs of them. That's more common now. Take photographs of them. I have a scanner app, like a Microsoft scanner app. It's called Microsoft Lens, and it's a scanner app that I have on my phone, and you can take photographs of documents, and it'll line them up nice and square and take the edges so they're nice and straight and everything like that. So photographs are a big thing now. Here we are using the phone again. So yeah. Excuse me, I've got a bit of tickling inside.
Well, that's one of our trainers, Alex Evans, always says that because people consistently ask, what is your number one tool as an investigator? And he always says, it's your phone. They just have so much capability, and they assist us so much in all of the different aspects, whether you're a surveillance operative, factual, or anything kind of investigation. There are tools there to help you. So.
Yeah, my word.
Yeah.
So government they will have to have a warrant when they're doing that sort of thing. With us as private investigators, it's in the policy, the statement when they took the insurance out. They've got to cooperate with the investigator and hand over whatever's required, and that's in the PDS, the product disclosure statement, in relation to that. And it's taken very seriously. And people normally hand over those spare keys. They hand over those parts. Other things that you take possession of, you'll do trap purchases for people selling parts as genuine that aren't, but you're not taking possession of that. You're going to the store and buying it and getting a receipt and taking it away and sending it off to the investigation agency.
And making notes.
Yep, you're making notes afterwards extensively. You've got video of it as well with your pen cam. And when you go to the markets and do a trap purchase for fake handbags, fake designer label stuff, all that sort of thing, again, you're not seizing it. Part of it is you are buying it because that's how it goes. So within the rules of evidence, with your notes, your video that you've taken, it's legally obtained. You bought it, or in the case of the car keys, it's in the statement saying, I have provided the spare keys to Mr. Patrick Flynn, the investigator. And it's in that record of interview or in that statement. So that's how you cover that sort of thing.
And Amber, yes, Mike answered it as you were typing that. So yes, it's in the PDS.
It's in the PDS. So if you check your car insurance tonight in your product disclosure statement, it'll say that you are required to cooperate with any investigation in relation to a car accident or a claim. And handing over those car keys is one of the things.
That's part of it,
With every investigation, I've had shower screens, tyres that have fallen off the back of utes and caused accidents. People just give them to you. They don't want it. They've kept them because someone might have to have it someday. And you take that away. You're not seizing it as such. Your notes and your statements are collecting it. And your ability to do that comes from the product disclosure statement and their obligation to cooperate. Excuse me.
We've had, we've had, like the company I've worked with, we had investigators that where a car's been written off as the result of an accident and it's in a car wrecking yard, we've had specific instructions from the insurer, because we've had a look at the car wreck and it's got bald tires and it was a wet day. So we've taken photographs and sent that to the client, and they've gone, well, can you go and get a tire or get those 2 tires and grab a hold of them and bring them to us so we can get someone else to have a look at them. So that's a common thing. I remember we did a
meteorology and get the weather report for that day.
Yeah. We also had an investigation that was out on the Birdville track, actually, for the Transport Accident Commission, and it was a serious accident where we had paraplegia and 1 death from the result of the accident. And one of our investigators used to be a car mechanic, and the TAC actually asked us, can you send that person out to do the job? We've got to get someone to go and do the job in, the Birdsville track. And while they're there, he wanted photographs of, or the TAC wanted photographs of the car, and also the seat belts. And they wanted the seat belts to see whether the shock loading on them, where the cam pinched them to lock them on when they had the accident, in order to confirm that the person was wearing or wasn't wearing their seatbelt. So it can be a whole range of things that you're going to take items and collect them on behalf of your client, or behalf of the solicitors acting on behalf of your client.
It is best practice, Jack, to swap those keys, mate. So use that spare one, please. All right. Just for lack of use, it'll go flat. So it's best practice to use them. But I know we don't. We've always got that spare one hidden away where home burglars can't find it. But it's best practice to rotate them around. Pat Flynn does it religiously. So if you can find it, you understand. Well, Pat, I think you covered the subject in both cases. I must emphasise, rules of evidence state it's got to be relevant. It's got to be obtained legally, therefore it's admissible. Now, if you're a government investigator watching this, you can't do a thing without a warrant. It's just not going to happen. And I'll give you a quick example. 2 police officers chased a lady driving erratically back to her house. She parked in her driveway. She ran inside. This is in Queensland. The police went up and knocked on the door. That's what we want them to do. We're all on the road. We want to be safe. We don't want drunks driving around. So they went and knocked on the door. A visitor to the house opened the door. And the police said, we want to know who was driving that car. We're coming in. And the visitor said, oh, come on in. The lady who was the drunk driver was in the kitchen, and she said, fuck off. Now, I'm watching this in court, and a very attractive magistrate lady just said that. She said, can I just clarify? They said, fuck off. And the police said, yes, that's what the words were from their notes. She threw it out. The magistrate threw it out because when they went in and arrested that lady, they didn't have a warrant. So they seized her, took her away and charged her, and breath tested her, everything. The magistrate threw it out because it was done illegally. And she said to them, in Queensland, you can ring up and get a warrant, but you didn't.
Yep.
And those 2 words she said, if she hadn't said that, might have been different. I don't know. But they take this very seriously.
The other thing too with government or compliance investigations, you've got 3 tiers of government. So you've got your Commonwealth government, you've got your state government, and you've got your local government. Now, under local government legislation and, the legislation that relates to how councils work and things like that, they have the ability to have an order to enter. It's not actually a search warrant. So that's why you see on our the presentation that I put together for search warrants, I also make a comment about orders, court orders. Now, those court orders, from a council point of view, might be to go and take photographs. The RSPCA, similarly, they have orders where they can go and have a look and take photographs together for the compliance matter that they're doing. sometimes if you've got an unruly house that's like a hoarder, or you've got someone who hasn't mowed the grass for 2 years and there's snakes living in the long grass in the house and all that sort of stuff, the council can order you to clean it up, or we will come and clean it up. And if they don't clean it up, they go to the court, get an order to do works. So they'll get an order for a heap of contractors to come in and mow the grass and clean the place up and tidy it up so there's no rodents or snakes or anything like that around. So in government, yes, there's a whole range of things where you can get an order to go and enter a property to either do things, look at things, photograph things, take possession of things, or in some instances clean the property up, and then they'll send the bill back to the ratepayer and say, well, we've cleaned it up. Now you're going to pay the contractors that come and did that because we ordered you to do it and you didn't do it. So yeah, there's a whole range of things from a government point of view.
Thanks, Pat. We're just quickly running out of time, so I'll just go through the jobs really quickly. Ibac, after Manager of Organisational Intelligence, and they really need that at Ibac at the moment. Actual investigators are wanted in Dubbo by Quantum Corp, but all throughout New South Wales and Victoria as well. Be more on that next week after I meet with Quantum Corp next week. Inspector of Municipal Administration Investigator is wanted down in Victoria. So you're going to be making sure that the administration of local government is all up to scratch. SureFact are hiring drone pilots. So people, if you've got your licenses for drones, SureFact want to hear from you, get in touch with them. Organisation, I've done that. Sorry, that's a repeat. Circumstance Investigator Procare Group down in Geelong, great opportunity. Technical Manager for SureFact down in Melbourne in Victoria. So they want a workers' comp technical manager, so you're going to have to know your way around statutory or pending claims, as they are called in Victoria, and common law claims. So they want you to oversee that at SureFact. Great opportunity. I think that's Casey.
Yeah.
that was Casey. We had a job last week, $7,000 a week pay it was. I thought that was pretty good. Be very hard pressed to beat that. Check out this one, twice that per week. $15,376 per week for a government regulatory compliance officer. That's on our Facebook page, people. You've got to ask to join it. I approve everyone that asks and answers the question. So if you want to earn $15,376, which is close to $800,000 a year.
That's wild.
7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Don't even consider turning your phone off. But that job vacancy is available down in Victoria at the moment. So that's a pretty serious job. You're going to need an advanced diploma of government investigation for that one. Now, I think Jack's going to put his hand up. No, it's not a typo. It's for real. Okay, so you go to our positions vacant page. There it is on Facebook, and that job is there. $800,000 a year, $15,000 a week. So that's all happening. Surveillance jobs are everywhere. Pinkertons are looking for a surveillance officer. Adam from Pinkertons is over in the States at the moment undertaking Pinkertons training, and he'll probably come back with another Pinkertons badge like he does each time he goes there. Good on Adam. Procare after surveillance person down in Launceston. Pinkertons have just done that. When you do Friday Investigations Uni, don't forget to download your CPD certificate, people. You must mark everything as complete before you can actually do that. And the link was in the description to today, so you can download that immediately. There's a job in Launceston, Jack. Up in Launceston, they want a surveillance operative. So get up there, mate. Yeah, applied for New South Wales license. New South Wales license is a really good idea, mate. As soon as you got that, you can start doing phone interviews in New South Wales from Victoria. So there's lots of job opportunities out there. Keep applying. Don't ever give up. Keep applying. They like consistency. You think you're annoying them and you think they're ignoring you? No. They have got, and Pat Flynn's been there and done this, 120 files to deal with every day, and 45 of them have to be in the post this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And these are major complex matters because they warrant an investigation. So they're busy people.
Yep.
Call them on Friday afternoon. That's when they're doing the jobs for next week and allocating the work. Here's Casey with her presentation. Hi, Casey.
It's just a quick one, actually, because one of my favorite Google search operators was apparently being taken away. I've seen mixed messages. So the file type Google search operator apparently is being phased out, but then I've seen some people say it was a glitch. So I tried it and there we go. Like it gave me no results just for the simple search of any kind of PDF throughout the whole
When did you do that, Casey?
That was a couple of hours ago.
Oh, okay. I did one yesterday. I was looking for a particular PDF for a book to see if it was online, and I did it yesterday at work. So wow, I'll be on Google when I get back. So
yeah. So I've tried across multiple. So I used this one was on Firefox and it didn't work, but then I did it in Chrome and it worked. So I'm not sure if
it might just be Firefox. As I said, I did it yesterday. And I use Chrome for most of my sort of day-to-day stuff. And yeah, it's if you're looking for something, as Casey said, if you're looking for, how to carve wood, you go how to carve wood, you leave a space and you type in lowercase file type :PDF. Or if you want to see a PowerPoint presentation on it, you put PPT. Or if you want to see a Word document about it, you put DOC. So yeah, file type : and then whatever the document is that you want to look at. But yeah, I did some yesterday on Chrome and they'll fine.
Yeah, so I'm hoping, because I've read in some open source intelligence newsletters that it's being phased out. Another person said it's a glitch. I'll keep you up to date with this because it will really suck. I use it all the time with digital investigations. So I go through people's websites and put in the specific site, PDF, doc. I see whatever is kind of loose in their website that you can't necessarily get to by clicking around on links. So it would be quite a disruptor, and I don't understand why they would phase it out. But we will keep you up to date with that. So it would,
I use it all the time.
Yeah.
For my own personal use, I use it all the time in the fact that I'll look to see if there's a digital copy of a book online to have a look at it before I go and buy the book out of the bookstore. So I use it all the time for that sort of thing. But yeah, on that point, go and have a look at, do a Google search on how to use Google. It is really important. You go to that website and there's pages of how you do different searches and things like that. Casey's probably been down this track all before, but yeah, learn how to maximize your results when you do Google searches. It's just really important.
Yes, Pat Flynn has been drumming that into me for 20 years now. Well, Helen's Google been around.
People, we did a program a couple of years back. It was one of the most popular of our series on mental health issues. And I've decided a new initiative. So we're going to have, starting this month, a monthly competition for mental health. Now, it represents this. What do you do to wind down? What's your hobby? What's your interest? So we're going to ask the people that watch this, what do you do? We had a sensational one sent in this week. It's absolutely sensational. But there's 12 months in a year, so you've got 12 opportunities to win this. And Casey and I are going to have a little monthly trophy made for the winner. So send in a 60-second video of your hobby. So other people who are totally stressed out all the time and not paying attention to their mental health can get the picture. You can be a private investigator and you can relax too. Okay, so that's going to be announced next week, how to do that. Thank you, Pat. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Casey. That's the most watched, longest by the most people ever episode.
Yeah, sorry. I always talk too much when I get going.
No, it was great. Thanks, Pat.
Stick around, guys. We're going out the usual way.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
So our mission complete. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, DJ.
Brian.
Great to see you, mate. Thanks, Jack. Have fun down there in Tassie, buddy. Jack was in Queenstown this week, Casey, and sent me photos.
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine it's changed.
Yeah, he had a great time. The only problem he had was Jack couldn't find his favourite cigars, which is no issue with me. Oh, I got them. So don't have to travel around looking for cigars. Jack, you could have just asked me. He didn't realise Tasmania has isolated areas like that. Thanks, Pat. Casey, thanks everybody for watching.
Pleasure.
See you next week. You guys stay there for 1 minute.
Goodbye, everybody.
See you, everyone. Have a great weekend.